Where are we starting?
Well, I sort of break down a bit of the Irish line-out work and a couple of other bits as well. Well, I suppose line-out and maul, because I think we saw in the first half in particular in the game in Paris on Saturday night just the amount of missed opportunities Ireland had when they got into the French 22. And I said I'd look back on a few of them, see what Ireland actually did in terms of where they went in the line-out and how they tried to set up the maul and why it didn't actually come together. So I have a few screen grabs here. Unfortunately for those who are listening to this live rather than watching it, I will try explaining it as best I can. We're going to bring the first of those up on the screen here in front of us. So this is 10 minutes in. This is the penalty after Hugo Keenan had the potential penalty try that wasn't given. Ireland kicked the penalty into touch. So this is the setup. We can see here that James Ryan is about to go up right towards the front of the line-out. But he has kind of made the move from the tail end of the line-out. He's walked right up towards the front to try kind of get ahead of the Frenchman to collect it. But what that has happened is, for those who can see on the screen, I have three arrows pointing in the direction of the touchline. That's the kind of support players who were behind James Ryan. So they're going to be coming into the maul from that angle. So Ryan goes up and collects it, comes back down to ground. And if we move on to the next screen grab, this is from behind. And we can see what has happened is those players, those Irish players, were running in from the open side of the pitch towards the touchline. But what it's done is it's given France the opportunity. You can see they have two pods of three players each. One of them, the one on the right-hand side, they're just pushing straight up in the direction of the pitch, straight into James Ryan. But the one to the side, they have now just had the opportunity to drive straight up towards the touchline and push the Irish support group, who are already coming from that side and have a huge amount of momentum, going towards the touchline. So they are driving them towards the touchline. What ends up happening is the Irish maul, it kind of wheels around a little bit, and eventually Rob Herring has to kind of fling back and offload to try keep it out of touch, and in the end Ireland knock it on. But it was just quite interesting. A lot of teams would probably go towards the tail end of a line out there to kind of keep it away from the touchline, but it just presented France the opportunity to push Ireland towards touch.
To use our own momentum against us.
Exactly.
Right.
But what we're going to do then is we're going to skip ahead to, this is on 40 minutes. This is the one where Ireland got the penalty, decided not to kick it, and go down into touch again. So this time Ireland do what they didn't do on the last one, on the first one initially. So as you can see there on the screen, I have Tadhg Byrne. You can see that little angle where he's just going to loop around. He is standing at the front of the line-out at the moment. He's going to work his way to the back of the line-out, where he's going to go up. And if we can go on to the next clip here. We don't seem to have a clip there. So what happens is Tadhg Byrne runs around. Yeah, we can see it here. So Byrne is up into the air. But now you have the Irish support runners coming in to help him out in the maul. They are coming from the touchline side. So you have Quayle and Doris there, and you also have James Ryan. They're coming back infield. So all the momentum of the Irish players, that's working back in towards the post and away from the touchline. Now, it's probably the safer option. And in fairness to Ireland, they actually work this quite well. It just takes a lot of really, really good French defence to actually stop them. They just get some bodies in the way, get some bodies in the line, and we can see that France eventually just stop Ireland. The play moves on, and Ireland kind of, I think in the end it was a player off his feet about 6 or 7 phases later.
So, but this is better than the first one?
It certainly is, yeah, it certainly is. It's a lower risk option, and in the end what Ireland did, they just peeled away from the line-out, so they wanted to create a quick maul. Rob Herring and his little pod peel away from that and start moving in towards the touchline. France just defended well. They read what Ireland are doing, and they get their bodies in. Like, I wouldn't actually, with hindsight, we were criticising more the decision to go to touch there rather than taking the points. But it just shows that you can do everything right sometimes and not get the required result. That just took some excellent French defending. It was a good option. What we'll see in the second half is one last option of the line-out I took, and this time Ireland go for that exact same option again, where they had Peter O'Mahony coming from the front towards the back instead of Tadhg Byrne this time. This time, though, it looks like it's an early throw, or the throw is maybe a little bit too low, because as we can see there, I have the red circle. That is the French substitute, Dylan Cretin, who's just about to steal the ball. Now, he's at the height of his lift. He's at the height of his jump, and he has just got his hand on that ball at that very moment. You can see behind, Peter O'Mahony is being lifted into the air at that stage. He is barely halfway up through his lift. He is about 1.5 yards further back. So that throw was either way too low, or the timing and the jump has gone up way too late, because the French player is right in front of him. He was able to take it easily. Like, a good option. That's the poor execution side of it.
Like in that instance, it also looked like it could have been thrown too early, or else there's just complete miscommunication. They read exactly what we're doing and are uncontested winning our lineouts.
They are.
That's not great.
Look, as the second half wore on, there were other options where there were just lost lineouts. There were poor lifts, there were poor jumps, and some of them down to the French TV director were getting aerial shots, so we can't really pick out the height and trajectory of the throw. But there were just a couple of options where the Irish maul broke down and kind of why it broke down, and the various options the team used, why you would go to the front rather than the back or back rather than the front.
Yeah, so none of this is terminal, though, right? Like, we've seen an Ireland team do this and manage this well in the past, and so therefore, like, just fix that. And over the next couple of weeks, they'll have plenty of time in camp to fix it. This isn't something that we would say, oh, we can't now run a line out properly.
No, but there have been issues probably over the last 12 to 18 months where the Irish line-out just hasn't really been firing particularly well. Like, we had throwing issues. I remember the game against Italy, particularly in the Six Nations of 2019 over in Rome, where there were huge issues, and Sean Cronin came in for a lot of criticism for his performance with his throwing. Rory Best, as we would have spoken about for years, and he addressed in his book that his throwing was something that was always put back against him as a criticism. Defensively in lineouts, Ireland are absolutely excellent, and they always have been, because they've got brilliant jumpers and kind of, split second decision makers, like even someone like Peter O'Mahony, who's just a brilliant defensive lineout operator. But it's just having to be more clinical and making better decisions when you get into that opposition 22. Okay,
let's talk about the lack of composure when trailing. Did we maybe lose our mind a little bit?
Yeah, it was more just the trend of the last couple of years that I was looking at, because I was thinking about the game in the second half and, can Ireland make the comeback? And I was trying to rack in my head, like, have we been coming back to win games over the last couple of years? And last night I sat down and kind of looked back over the games over the last couple of years, and it actually just is startling how few of Ireland's wins over the last couple of years that they've actually had to dig out and really come back and win. I've looked over the last couple of years. I've picked out Ireland's last 12 wins. So this is dating back to the start of the 2019 Six Nations. They've won 12 games across all tournaments and competitions there. Out of those 12 games, out of those 12 wins, they only trailed in 6 of them. 3 of those 5 games were against Italy. The largest deficit they have come from behind in over the last 2 years is 5 points. That was against Italy in a World Cup warm-up match. And you'd have to go back to the 2018 Six Nations against Wales in Dublin for the last time Ireland overturned a deficit of more than 7 points to win a game.
Right. So it shows if you get a lead in Ireland, you've kind of won the game, if you're any good.
You've taken a big step.
OK, over Lyons and Sexton?
Yeah, so Johnny Sexton, like, it's just something that Brian O'Driscoll would have raised on Monday Night Rugby with Keith Wood as well, where, like, Johnny Sexton is the de facto best number 10 in Ireland, and therein lies the problem, because you look at someone like Ross Byrne, he's got 8 caps. He's only started 1 game still since his debut more than 2.5 years ago. That one start was against England in that World Cup warm-up match back in 2019 when, look, it really didn't work out well for him. And across the Six Nations, he just really hasn't been given the opportunity to come out and put together minutes and build a bit of confidence. He played across the Six Nations 11 minutes against France the other night, 10 minutes against Italy the week before when that game was done and dusted. He played 14 minutes against England at Twickenham. He played 9 minutes in the win against Wales when, again, Ireland were looking OK to win that game, and only played 7 minutes in the opening game of the tournament against Scotland as well. So you have to think in the Autumn Nations Cup, he has to be given at least 1 start and probably feature in all 3 games.
Yeah, and ideally it wouldn't just be the start against Georgia, where it's hard to judge anything from that. Last thing, anybody else getting a trial during the Autumn Nations Cup?
Yeah, I think we want to see a lot more players. James Lowe, we assume, is obviously going to be playing. I think Ryan Baird is someone we're probably going to be seeing as well. Would like to see, as I mentioned, a start for Ross Byrne. Possibly one other out half as well to get some significant minutes over the course of these 3 games. Then looking at midfield, maybe Chris Farrell or Stuart McCluskey coming in to play a bit of time. And just building up depth around the pitch. Shane Daly, maybe even Fineen Wycherley, who was involved along with Craig Casey as one of the development players in the group. Who knows, they could be good enough to get some sort of minutes and just get a taste of international rugby.
All right, Neil, great stuff. Neil's Type 5, a feature of all of our rugby coverage here. And if you have any questions for him, you can WhatsApp us 087 9 180 180, or you can get us on Twitter @OffTheBall as well. It's 9:38.